Welcome everyone to our pitch day. So just as we look to get things started, do want to remind all the viewers that this presentation may contain forward-looking information. There can be no assurance that forward-looking information will prove to be accurate, as actual results and future events could differ materially from those anticipated in such statements. So accordingly, viewers should not place undue reliance on forward-looking information. So with that in mind, we are going to turn things over to Celeste of the Better Butchers. And the Better Butchers are the alternative protein butcher shop of the future. They are meat made better with mushrooms. So Celeste, take it away.
Hello, my name is Celeste Trujillo. I am CTO and co-founder for the Better Butchers. We are building the alternative protein butcher shop of the future, and this is with the help of fungi. By 2050, the meat consumption demand is going to increase by 70%. The way we are going, we're going to need another planet to feed the growing population. Unfortunately, the alternatives out there have not met expectations. This is the post from New York Post Food and Drink. Fake meat is failing because it's gross and unhealthy. I am a food scientist. I worked in product development for over 15 years. I used to love eating meat, and when I stopped, there was no better alternatives. If someone is choosing to not eat meat, right now they don't have something as nutritionally good as meat, and there's a problem with that. We need to do better than that. The market is far from being over, though. In Canada alone, we have a size of like 499 million. And in the United States, there was a reported sales report of 1.4 billion with a CAGR of 25%. So the category is far from being over. This is our competitive landscape right now. And this is what the consumers see. There's so many words that they cannot pronounce, much less they want to put into their bodies. And as you can see on the right side, if you can see our ingredient statement is super simplified. We are using mushrooms, and that way we don't have to ultra process ourselves. It actually brings the amino acid content to a complete protein, so you would actually be getting high quality protein, increases fiber and iron to excellent sources of, and it still keeps the high protein value. So as you can see, we're competitive with not only plant-based but actually real meat. And the consumers are loving it. This is what's coming up in our product reviews, 5 stars. They're resonating with the proposition of let's eat just good, meaty textures without all the chemical flavors and all the chemical things that we don't need in our body. The timeline so far, we just launched in the spring, and we're in over 50 retail stores right now in BC. In the fall, we're launching strips or fajita style mushroom meat. And in the spring of next year, we're making better burgers. And later on that year, we're launching mushroom muscle meat. Our ask is $500,000. This is the majority for manufacturing overhead and equipment that will help us reach national distribution and entry the US market. And there's a part of it that actually is going to go to R&D as we're exploring different mushrooms varieties and different kind of proteins that we can make with it. Thank you so much. This is our information, our website, and please check out our FrontFundr campaign. And if you have a chance, please try our samples, because that is what will take tasting is believing. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Great pitch, Celeste. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I think a question we've been getting a lot from investors is just going through how the Better Butchers are different from the Very Good Butchers. And the Very Good Butchers is actually kind of part of my journey and how I came to FrontFundr, investing in them. I know it's a different company, different team, different product, and a different main ingredient with mushrooms instead of beans. But perhaps you can share with investors a little bit more about how this new company is doing things differently.
So the first thing is that we have a different management team, and the actual experience that we've learned, and not only with the Very Good Butchers, but before in previous companies such as Vega, Dea Foods, we've compounded all that experience. And what we're doing different is that we're actually not only minimalistic in our ingredients, but also in our operations. We're actually very thoughtful about the trade secrets staying in our formulation, and our process is actually quite simple, and it uses general equipment. What that means is that instead of us making like these finicky processes that it takes so long and they're not as scalable, that we're creating very scalable processes that we can bring all over the world and build our butcher shops all over. And aside from that, yes, like you mentioned, we are completely gluten-free and soy-free. This is a different concept. And again, because we learned so much from the past, we're just like trying to shorten things up and being much more simple and be better. No pun intended.
That's fantastic. Definitely appreciate the gluten-free aspect there. I know as you touched on growth a little bit, we had a question come through asking when you're coming to Toronto. So do you know when you'll be planning to expand across Canada a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. We absolutely need the East Side. We're showing at the CHFA show, the Canadian Health and Food Association, in September. And this is where retailers come and taste our product. In the past one, this is where we gained 50 retail stores. As soon as we put our food in front of buyers and distributors, they buy it. So
That's
very
amazing.
simple thing.
And can consumers go to that show as well, or is it generally just
Yes.
retailers? Okay, so Juan
Uh,
Pablo, check them out in September. Absolutely. Well, yeah, appreciate you answering that. I think the expansion sounds great. I know one thing that's really important to the brand is really the butcher shop aesthetic and being the butcher shop of the future. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit of why that's so important to the company kind of messaging and positioning in the marketplace.
Well, it's like what we thought of like the old school kind of butcher shop where the meats were coming from the back. People knew where they were coming from, and building that high quality butcher shop that like hardly exists even as in real conventional meat. So we like that aesthetic. Actually, goes very well with fungi aesthetic. So we hope to be recognized by that, not only for our fabulous foods, I guess, for a good brand proposition.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for answering that. I know you've touched on your growth plans a little bit as well, but I know R&D is a very important aspect of the company too. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you're working on next?
Yes. Um, we have only tapped the surface of the mushrooms that are available for us to kind of leverage in terms of the nutrition aspect, the texture. So what we're trying to create is more alternatives that come from mushrooms, and it's mushrooms that like the advantage is that you can grow them in bioreactors and tanks, fermentation tanks. So they're completely on phase with season changes or climate change.
That's great. That's a huge important aspect for sure of kind of developing the food for the future. So definitely think that's a great strategy. I know as well you highlighted just kind of how few ingredients you have compared to competitors. And I like the point you brought up about the amino acid profile as well. I think been reading more about different longevity things and plant-based diets. And that's usually one of the core things lacking is the amino profile that you get from meat when you cut that out. So would love to hear a little bit more about just how you guys are able to create such great products with whole foods and yet fewer clean ingredients. It's definitely something that is unique and stands out to you guys in the market, as you showed on just the ingredient profiles of some of the leading competitors in the space.
Yes. Well, the fact is that mushroom, specifically oyster mushroom, has its own content of amino acids. When you combine it with pea protein, which is our case, well, obviously completes it, and the PDCAAS has in a way of measuring, protein nutrition is close to one, so it's very, very similar to soy. In that case, soy is the best one. Mushrooms are also adding in terms of not only the protein and the amino acids, but they're adding important micronutrients that we don't even label, such as iron and fiber, like I mentioned before. But in case of like, in terms of like the protein, this is what's happening next. When you mix mushrooms with plant protein, it actually makes it meatier without you having to ultra process, but also it gives it a much more neutral flavor, which for us is best. Why? Because we don't have to use all these chemicals that you need to cover that bitterness that pea protein has. And we get to just use high quality seasoning and spices for that.
That's amazing. Well, last question for today that we had come through is just The investor's a little interested in learning more about what stores you're currently in. I know you mentioned kind of 50 retail stores currently, and then a little bit more on kind of what those next steps in terms of growth or expansion look like.
Yes. So we are in the natural channel right now. We are in Thrifties and Choices here in BC, but we're in conversations with Whole Foods. That's the major retailer we'd like to hit, and that is for later on in the year. And in terms of expansion, when we go and present to retailers in the East, we are sure that we're gonna start conquering the natural channel. But obviously, after that, it needs to be conventional into the superstore, into all these conventional like Loblaws, Safeway, Save On, and that's where the bigger ticket will be. And but again, we need to reach that capacity, and that's why I'm speaking to you guys here.
Exactly.
Because we
That's what
need
you
that.
need with those funds. That's wonderful. But yeah, Celeste, thank you so much for delivering a great pitch and for handling all those questions from investors. I think there's definitely some eager individuals looking to get the product when it hits the East Coast, which is quite exciting. So yeah, definitely encourage everyone to check out the campaign page, frontfundr.com/the better butchers. And they also have a great video that I encourage everyone to check out. So Celeste, thank you so much. So just as we look to wrap things up today, do want to thank everyone for joining. For those who may have any questions about FrontFundr or getting started, some quick information on our side, just we are Canada's leading equity crowdfunding platform. We make it easy for Canadians to invest in the most exciting startups and growth stage companies. We've been doing this for a long time, over 150 raises, 200 million processed, 22,000 investments across a community of 40,000 investors. And if you do have any questions at any time, visit our website, frontfundr.com, and you can always reach out to support@frontfundr.com for any questions about the investment process or getting started with FrontFundr today. So definitely encourage everyone to check out all of the companies who pitched today. It's a fantastic 5 firms, so we're very thankful to have them. And to everyone who delivered a pitch, thank you for doing such a wonderful job and for joining us with investors today. So thank you, everyone.